Nossa, você tá num lugar chique, hein?
I've made some inquiries into the Imperial Court. The sooner we deal with the threats to the Empress, the
Hum,
better. The political situation in the Empire is dangerously unstable. It will complicate matters.
Everything in the Empire complicates matters. It's the Orlesian national pastime.
Turn your nose up at the grand game if you like, Commander, but we play for the highest stakes, and to the death.
The court's disapproval can be as great a threat as the Venatori. We must be vigilant to avert disaster.
perigosamente
Exactly what do you
instável?
mean? How is it more dangerous than usual?
The Empress is in the middle of a civil war. Her
Hum,
cousin, Grand Duke Gaspard, seeks to take her throne by force. Leliana reports that a group of elves has been sabotaging both armies, drawing out the hostilities.
que
Orlais wants
legal.
Tevinter at bay. All of Thedas could be lost if the Empire falls to Corypheus. Celine is holding peace talks under the auspices of a grand masquerade. Every power in Orlais will be there. It's the perfect place for an assassin to hide.
Eu não tenho o que vestir. É. Tem que...
Does Celine know about the threats against her? Can we send word?
I've sent messages to the Empress, but it's impossible to know if she's received them. I'll arrange for an invitation at your discretion, Inquisitor.
Eu não tenho muita... Como fala? Eu não tenho muita... roupa, não. Ah, caramba, tem muita coisa aqui. Convocar conselho de guerra. Ah, aqui que tá o conselho de guerra. Beleza. Encontra a sala de guerra. Bem-vindo à Fortaleza. Caramba, o garoto esquecido. Procure corda. Tem muita coisa. Calma aí, para de vir em missão. Calma, calma, calma. Respira. Não para de vir. Meu Deus. Não para. Caraca, 30 de poder necessário? Ô, louco. Olá, rapaziada, como é que vocês estão? Sejam bem, vamos aí a mais um episódio de Dragon Age Inquisition. E neste episódio nós vamos agora para uma exploração da Fortaleza do Céu. No último episódio o Corypheus atacou o refúgio já era, muita gente morreu. Conseguimos sobreviver assim por pouco. E agora a gente ganhou uma nova fortaleza, a Fortaleza do Céu, um lugar bem longe e protegido, onde a Inquisição pode se reerguer e ficar mais forte e preparada para esse novo inimigo ao qual já sabemos o nome e o rosto. Então esse vai ser um episódio em que a gente vai conversar com todo mundo, que é sempre importante a gente ficar conversando, falando com o pessoal, melhorando as afinidades, pegando missão deles, entendeu? Só que em vez de eu fazer de pouco em pouco, no meio de tudo espalhado, vou sempre juntar num episódio único pra gente conversar com todo mundo, gastar todos os diálogos, ver as historinhas de todo mundo, as interações que são bem legais. Terminamos de ver tudo do pessoal, aí a gente vai voltar para as missões secundárias. Então esse episódio é basicamente história de todo mundo e conversar com todo mundo. Antes de mais nada, vamos ao nosso pequeno tá padrão. Pega uma de petisco, chama os amigos, bora se divertir. Mas antes, deixa que já aquece o coração, se não for inscrito, já aproveita e se inscreve. Bora lá. Tá, vamos lá. Temos muita coisa pra fazer. Temos uma missão aqui das cinzas. Fale com o Varric nas ameias. A gente pode ir lá falar com ele, entendeu? Tem muita coisa, caramba. E tá zoneado pra caramba isso daqui. Tem até que pular nos escombros. Vamos lá, temos bastante gente aqui, será?
What was this place? So much room for whatever was here.
Inquisitor.
Vai falando as coisinhas aí, meu filho. Hoje vamos dar uma explorada, por enquanto, nesse lugar.
There are few hard facts, but I can share what I've learned.
I'd like to know more about the breach.
Simply put, it is a tear in the veil between this world and the Fade, allowing spirits to enter the world physically. Small tears occur naturally when magic weakens the veil, or when spirits cluster in an area that has seen many deaths. But your anchor, as Corypheus calls it, allows you some control over the breach. That suggests it was deliberate.
I'd like to know more about the Veil.
Circle mages call it a barrier between this world and the Fade. But according to my studies in ancient elven lore, that is a vast oversimplification. Without it, imagine if spirits entered freely. The Fade was not a place one went, but a state of nature like the wind.
Parece estranho.
Don't know if I can imagine that.
Desculpa, Solas, mas é meio estranho.
Imagine if spirits were not a rarity, but a part of our natural world. Like a fast-flowing river. Yes, it can drown careless children, but it can also carry a merchant's goods or grind a miller's flour. That is what the world could be if the Veil were not present. For better or worse.
I'd like to know more about demons.
The Chantry says that demons hate the natural world and seek to bring their chaos and destruction to the living. But such simplistic labels misconstrue their motivations, and in so doing, do all a great disservice. Spirits wish to join the living, and a demon is that wish gone wrong.
Is there a way to coexist? To live with them? If not in peace, at least without such active confrontation.
Not in the world we know today. The Veil creates a barrier that makes true understanding most unlikely. But the question is a good one, and it matters that you thought to ask.
We'll talk later.
Goodbye.
Ok. Recursos. Eu acho que esse véu que ele falou, eu acho que tem a ver com o véu que vai ter no próximo jogo. Mas eu não sei, por enquanto, nada do próximo jogo. Eu só vi umas gameplay, não quero saber de história, não quero spoiler, não quero nada. Eu quero saber quando chegar o momento, entendeu? Olá, Dorian.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Hum.
One moment you're trying to restore order in a world gone mad. That should be enough for anyone to handle, yes? Then, out of nowhere, an archdemon appears and kicks you in the head. What? You thought this would be easy?
Muito
No,
sarcástico.
I was just hoping you wouldn't crush our village like an anthill. Sorry about that. Archdemons like to crush, you know. Can't be helped. Am I speaking too quickly for you?
Tava apreciando espetáculo.
I was distracted, that's all.
Distracted? By my wit and charm? I have
Caramba.
plenty of both.
How interesting to find someone so aware of his strengths.
I'm a man of many talents. What can I say? I always assumed the elder one behind the Venatori was a magister. But this is something else completely. In Tevinter, they say the Chantry's tales of magisters starting the Blight are just that. Tales. But here we are. One of those very magisters, a dark spawn.
Who does the Imperium say started the Blight?
You know how it is. Not us. They say Darkspawn were always there. Magisters and the Blight aren't even related. Is that a surprise? No one wants to admit they shit the bed. But if Corypheus is one of the Magisters who entered the Black City and he's Darkspawn, what other explanation is there?
Why does that make you angry?
Because the Imperium is my home. I knew what I was taught couldn't be the whole truth, but I assumed there had to be a kernel of it, somewhere. But no, it was us all along. We destroyed the world.
You didn't do anything. Those men did. 1,000 years ago.
True, except that one of them is up and walking around right now. Not to mention I have idiot countrymen who would happily follow him down that path again. No one will thank me, whatever happens. No one will thank you either. You know that, yes?
We don't know what will happen. Nobody does.
An optimist! Such a rare breed. I've stumbled upon a unicorn. All I know is this. Corypheus needs to be stopped. Men like him ruined my homeland. I won't stand by and let him ruin the world. Oh, and congratulations on that whole leading the Inquisition thing, by the way.
Operação disponível, amiga de Quarinos. Tem mais alguma coisa pra falar? Caraca, tem um monte de coisa pra falar. É, ele foi o último a chegar.
Anything interesting?
A letter regarding Felix, Alexius' son. He went to the magisterium, stood on the Senate floor and told them of you. A glowing testimonial, I'm informed. No news on the reaction, but everyone back home is talking. Felix always was as good as his word.
Was?
He's dead.
Ah,
The blight caught up with him.
Are you all right?
He was ill, and thus on borrowed time anyhow.
That doesn't mean you can't regret his death.
I know. Felix used to sneak me treats from the kitchens when I was working late in his father's study. Don't get into trouble on my behalf, I tell him. I like trouble, he'd say. Tevinter could use more mages like him.
tadinho dele.
Those who put the good of others above themselves.
With the two of you,
Caras
Felix
fofoca.
and I? What an odd question.
O caras fofoca.
I had no intention of abusing Alexius's hospitality by seducing his son. Not that I've been proper my whole life by any means. It wasn't like that. Even in illness, Felix was the best of us. With him around, you knew things could be better.
you make it sound like he was a better person than you.
What a mad thing to say. Few people are better than I. Very well, a better person, clearly, not nearly as handsome. Thankfully, Felix wasn't the only decent sort kicking around Thedas.
Ok, tem mais alguma coisa?
The Inquisition supports free mages. What's next? Elves running Halamsharal? Cows milking farmers?
I take it you don't agree.
On the contrary, I approve. Heartily. I do wonder if you've considered what this support of yours will do. For mages in general, I mean. The Inquisition is seen as an authority. You've given southern mages license to, well, be like mages back home.
If that means they're anything like you, I approve.
Ha! There aren't many mages back home like me.
I'd believe that.
I never fit in. Bloodstains are so difficult to clean, you see.
So we're doomed to a future of blood magic, then?
Not at first. But you'd be a fool not to see where this could lead. Thing is, the Imperium was once just like the South. Templars, proper circles, all that rot. Then it changed. By inches. Not that this is reason to oppress us. Still,
Eu queria que desse pra ver como que tá o nível.
It occurs to me that I barely know anything about you.
Pra você ver como tá as amizades e tudo.
Beyond that, yes.
And beyond my being so charming and well dressed, which is obvious to anyone.
I'm well aware of your finer qualities.
Beleza, achamos mais um candidato.
Of course I believe you. The moment I saw you, I
Temos
thought,
ele e a Cassandra.
there's a man who knows quality. Now, what was I talking about? Ah, yes, me. I am the scion of House Parvis, a product of generations of careful breeding and the repository of its hopes and dreams. Naturally, I despised it all. The lies, the scheming, the illusions of supremacy. That's Tevinter in a nutshell, isn't it? Needless to say, my family was not happy with my choices.
Why would your family be upset with your choices?
because I rejected their idyllic plan. If they had their way, by now I'd be married to some unlucky girl from a powerful family. We'd live in luxurious despair, despising each other as I waited to take my father's place in the magisterium. I declined the honor, and thus it's best I'm far from home. Less of an embarrassment that way, you see?
I'm getting the impression that you don't care much for your homeland.
On the contrary, I care for my homeland a great deal. There's so much potential. Sadly, we squander it. We refuse to acknowledge how far we've fallen because pretending is easier. We pretend the Qunari can be beaten. We pretend that we're superior to everyone, even our own people. Not everyone feels that way. I don't. Sadly, we're the minority.
It just seems so much of what you say about the Imperium is entirely negative.
It might sound that way. For all our faults, my people have many virtues. We are laden with history and culture. Tevinter is where Thedas truly began, remember? We treasure our past and preserve it. You can walk down a side street and find nothing built during the modern ages. And despite appearances, we care. Deeply. About everything. We have no reserve, not in war and not in love. If I truly believed my homeland was beyond all hope, I wouldn't miss it so much.
What do you mean by generations of careful breeding?
The great families of Tevinter don't have children. They refine traits, weed out the undesirable, and promote the rest. My mother was chosen for my father because magic runs strongly in her blood. Never mind that they loathed each other. They wanted a son who could become Archon to make House Parvis the envy of the Imperium. They got me. A cautionary tale that you should be careful what you wish for.
Why remain with the Inquisition? Why not go back to Tevinter?
I'm not exactly welcome back home. Not that it matters. I'm quite accustomed to being a pariah. It adds to my charm. I can do more for Tevinter here. If the Venatori succeed, it'll set my homeland back 1,000 years. I'm sure some magisters would disagree, but that's why we kill them.
I think I've heard enough.
That's too bad. I never tire of talking about myself.
Eu percebi.
Have you gone to see Alexius yet? He's in the cells.
Not yet, no. I saw him before they locked him up. He looked despondent, broken. Not the man I remember, nor the one I want to. I realize it's now your job to judge him. All I ask is, if you do, show him mercy. He hardly deserves it, but for Felix's sake. I can't help hoping there's something left of the man I once knew.
Eu também não tem mais nada. Acabou.
You roam Skyhold all day. Here and there you run, checking in on your followers. Why don't they come to you, feed you grapes, rub your shoulders? I suppose it's more fun this way. For me, I mean. You're rather strapping.
Gente. Tá mais rápido que a Cassandra.
Noticed you're rather strapping yourself.
Of course you have. That only takes eyes.
Luckily, I have those.
You do. A rather fetching pair.
Gente.
At any rate, you didn't pass by to hear me fawn. Something on your mind?
Conta um pouco sobre o Império. Eu gosto de saber bastante das coisas. A montar o mundo. Esse mundo tá bem rico.
Always seems quite fascinated by it. Probably why they come up with so many ridiculous tales. Flying cows over Minrathous. That's madness. All right, that one's actually true, but the cows didn't have wings. I digress. Anything in particular you wanted to know?
Caraca, tem muita coisa.
It
Vamos saber das coisas.
An entire empire would be ruled by mages.
I find
Hoje a
it
gente vai
strange
explorar.
that all mages don't rule anything at all. Actually, the fiction in the Imperium is that mages don't rule. The Magisterium rules. That magisters are all mages is considered a convenient technicality.
What is the Magisterium exactly?
The upper house of the Imperial Senate, and the only part worth having a seat on. Those seats are split among the circles of Magi, the Chantry, and the major families. All mages now. It's odd that outside the Imperium, you use Magister like it applies to every Tevinter mage.
If you're not a Magister, then what are you called? No special title?
I'm an Altus, which is almost as good as a Magister, depending on who you ask.
E altos é?
Never heard of an Altus.
Upper class. Those families who trace descent from the Dreamers, the first prophets of the old gods. If you're a mage and you're not Altus, then you're later. Lower class. If you're not a mage at all, you're Soperati. That's everyone else. We do love our fancy words.
Bem elaborado mesmo.
I thought the Archon ruled over the Imperium.
Well, yes. Technically, he can overrule laws passed by the Magisterium, but that never happens. Even so, he gets to appoint new Magisters, which means all the families vie madly for his favor. Thus, the Archon gets invited to all the parties. The truest path to Tevinter influence, let me tell you.
If it's a fiction, that means mages do rule then.
Yes and no. Let me put it this way. Mages do rule, but not all mages are equal. If you're not from the right family, chances are you don't rule anything. Maybe you're even a slave. The idea that anyone could be a mage, however, keeps the masses placated.
Can anyone be a mage?
Technically, the potential runs mostly in bloodlines, but it's been known to happen. More importantly, commoners believe it can. Tevinter legend is chock full of mage heroes from humble origins. So they hold out hope. Someday my son or my son's son will be a mage. Someday. Poor sods don't realize that means he'll be a quaestor at the arse end of the 100 Pillars, at best.
Being a quaestor isn't a good thing.
I imagine the average non-mage likes to think so. Counting numbers and shuffling papers all day is better than many occupations after all. If you're a second-class citizen among a pack of piranha, however, your outlook changes.
Let me ask you something else.
Of course.
There's an Imperial Chantry, isn't there? With its own divine?
You people aren't supposed to talk about the Black Divine, are you? If you mention him outside the Imperium, people make that face, like you're urinating in public. But yes, we do have the Chantry, or a version of it. Night and day comparing it to yours.
Acho que todos os diálogos que a gente não teve com ele até agora no jogo, a
Is the
gente tá tendo
Imperial
agora.
Chantry so different from ours?
Not in theory. The main difference is in the whole magic is meant to serve man, not rule over him business. Back home, ruling the unwashed masses is serving them, for the good of the Imperium. Perhaps it started with good intentions, but these days it's academic. The circles are in command.
There are circles of magi in the Imperium.
We don't have dismal little mage prisons, if that's what you mean. They're academies, prestigious ones. We have Templars as well, but they don't cancel spells or whatever your Templars do. They're soldiers. They watch for abuse of magic, yes, but only those who are weak or who fall out of favor get dealt with. Mostly they enforce the Magisterium's edicts. The Chantry smiles and nods from the sidelines.
Do you really call him the Black Divine?
We don't call him that, oh no. In the Imperium, he's the true divine. The woman sitting on the Sunburst throne is some backwater pretender. It all stems from a disagreement over Andraste. Marvelous, isn't it?
Why would they disagree over Andraste?
It's not my field of expertise, but the Imperium believes Andraste was a mortal woman, a mage. Down south, they say, no, she's the bride of the Maker, ascended to his side, divine provenance, blah, blah, blah. We feel better believing Andraste was one of us. Makes executing her less damning, you see. So we elected a man as divine, the South declared war, and we've been feuding cousins ever since.
So the Imperial Divine is always a man?
All the better to distinguish him from that other one, yes. Don't think there aren't a number of female magisters who bristle at that. Why can't they be divine after all? Same reason you never see a man on the sunburst throne. Because that's how it's always been done. Excellent reasoning.
Tudo para diferenciar.
Do you consider yourself Andrastian?
The big question. It might surprise you that I do consider myself Andrastian. I simply do not believe in the Chantry. It is a relic.
Você crê no Deus, mas não crê na instituição.
Something from a bygone age desperately clinging to relevance. It's not an opinion that makes me popular.
I share your opinion, actually.
That's not surprising, considering what the Inquisition represents. I'll say this. I may not believe in the Chantry, but I believe in you.
In me?
That the Maker
Obrigado.
whether through Andraste or fate. Cassandra is not wrong. You saw that in the future, without you, Corypheus prevails. You are our bulwark against evil.
You don't seem like the religious sort, to be honest.
If you define religious as sitting in a chantry and listening to a blithering hen tell you how to live, then no. If you define it as believing in the possibility that something larger than yourself exists, then yes, by all means. The world is bigger than I, even bigger than you. It laughs at all the things we think we know. The Maker doesn't need me to believe, but I do. The thought of no one at all watching out for us is too frightening.
Que diálogo forte.
Let me ask you something else.
So many questions.
I'm wondering if the Imperium would be a useful ally.
I'd think you'd be more concerned whether or not they'd support the Venatori. They won't, of course. At least, not officially. They'll disavow all knowledge of dangerous cultists. Secretly, many magisters will rejoice at the idea. And if the South falls to chaos in the meantime, all the better.
It would be in the Imperium's best interest to help. Surely it could use allies.
I think the Imperium gave up on the idea of allies a long time ago. We've been fighting the Qunari for what, 200 years off and on? It's a point of pride that we go it alone. They'll sneer at the South behind their silk handkerchiefs and say, "You've had it easy for far too long." Let's not forget that the Inquisition seems to be an arm of the Orlesian Chantry. Anathema so far as they're concerned.
We're not part of the Chantry. The Chantry opposed the Inquisition's formation.
You think that matters? Don't be silly. The Herald of Andraste. Your very title smacks of the Southern Chantry. You may as well be a heathen. I think they're far more frightened what you'll do if you succeed.
Just how often is blood magic used there?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
That's what any magister would tell you. They'd be convincingly offended by the notion too. Of course, what people call blood magic here, and what we consider blood magic, are two different things.
What's considered actual blood magic in Tevinter?
Blood magic isn't inherently dangerous. Using your own blood or that of a willing participant, what's the harm? The problem is that what's permitted only gets you so much power. And what if you need more? You always need more. That's where we get into sacrifices and demon summoning. None of that is done. Not officially. Behind closed doors, it's a different story. real blood magic can give you an edge, a leg up against your opponents. It's safe to assume that any mage of rank does it. The rest are quietly shut out of power, to put it bluntly.
You'd think the Templars would object.
I imagine they did, long ago. Once, their investigations might have been sincere. Then their balls were cut off. Too inconvenient. Nowadays, only the friendless are accused. Most of them probably innocent.
There must be some mages who oppose this.
Of course. I do. And I'm not entirely alone. Occasionally, there'll be a magister who makes noise. And then the reform talk begins. All very patriotic. Meanwhile, that magister will be quietly shunned. Chances are, surprise, it's learned he was a Maleficar all along. Most learn to keep quiet. Me? I enjoy the allure of pariahhood.
Anyone who talks about the Imperium mentions slavery. It's the center of the slave trade.
Ah. That is true.
Did you have slaves?
Not personally, but my family does and treats them well. Honestly, I never thought much about it until I came south. Back home, it's how it is. Slaves are everywhere. You don't question it. I'm not even certain many slaves do.
You think slaves like it that way? Don't be ridiculous.
I didn't say they like it. It's all most of them know. In the south, you have alienages, slums, both human and elven. The desperate have no way out. Back home, a poor man can sell himself. As a slave, he could have a position of respect, comfort, and could even support a family. Some slaves are treated poorly, it's true. But do you honestly think inescapable poverty is better?
Maltratados.
Is that what you call it? Treated poorly?
Abuse heaped upon those without power isn't limited to Tevinter, my friend. I don't know what it's like to be a slave, true. I never thought about it until I saw how different it was here. But I suspect you don't know either. Nor should you believe that every tale of Tevinter excess is the norm.
Bem, é isso que
That's all I
temos.
wanted to know.
Fair enough.
You said Alexius was a mentor of yours.
He was my patron, sponsoring me to the higher levels of the Circle of Magi. In return, my successes were his. I had a lot of successes, naturally. Alexius was most pleased. He and I used to talk over brandy about the corruption, how we could one day make real change in the Imperium. And then he gave up. He stopped trying.
Por quê?
Why did he give up?
On a journey to Hosburg, a Darkspawn raid killed his wife and sickened his son. I remember hearing the news. He hadn't been there, you see. Alexius was convinced he could have protected them. The guilt tore him up. I helped him with his research for a while, and then we drifted apart.
That must have been difficult.
Back then, I was furious. I told him to snap out of it, move on. I thought I had all the answers. Later, I regretted my hasty words. But we didn't speak again until he approached me for the Venatori. Too much pride, I suppose. Plus, I was busy drinking. One must have priorities.
Was it hard being away from him?
It was hard not having a patron, yes. I'm not exactly built to fit in. At any rate, he's fallen so low, I doubt he'll ever get up. Sad, really.
I should go.
Try not to kill
Belezinha.
anyone without me.
Olá. E aí,
Greetings,
como estão as
Inquisitor.
coisas?
That is your title now, yes? I should thank you. The way things ended in Redcliffe, you could have demanded anything you wished. Yet you chose to make us equal partners. I was not expecting that.
for good reason.
I'm pleased to hear you say that, Inquisitor. I've been a Grey Warden, Grand Enchanter, leader of a rebellion, and now I am none of those things. Odd where fate takes you, as you're no doubt well aware.
You were once a Grey Warden.
Mine is an unusual circumstance, Inquisitor. Normally one is part of the Order until death. But long ago I found myself stripped of what made me a Warden. They tried to reinitiate me, but nothing worked. Nor could they figure out how it happened. So I was sent to the Circle of Magi, the first Warden ever to be kicked out. Quite the achievement.
You sound happy about it.
Becoming a Warden seemed like a dream when I was first conscripted. Towards the end, however, my brothers and sisters, they felt I had somehow cheated death. I was glad to leave. It also made me unique in the Circle. I had an opportunity to do more than I ever could as a Warden.
You mean you began the Mage Rebellion?
I pushed for our vote to free the Circles of Magi. But I cannot claim sole responsibility for what followed. Still, despite all the chaos, I would do it again. What happened had to happen.
You're not still the Grand Enchanter then?
Any claim I had to the title ended along with the Circles of Magi, although some still call me by it. Perhaps the Circles will one day be resurrected. If so, another will take the position. Until that time, I lead my fellow mages by default. I will do what I can for them.
You believe they'll recreate the Circle of Magi after all this?
It depends on who the next divine is, and what she offers. We can't go back to the way things were. But endless warfare benefits no one. That is why I agreed to Justinia's conclave. There must be another solution.
I've been meaning to ask, how exactly did the Venatori take control in Redcliffe?
Mages constantly found their way to us while we were there. Stragglers, most of them strangers. I had no way of knowing some were actually Tevinter. They spread whispers, encouraged talk of an alliance, and we were desperate. I'm not proud of our choice, but we were certain Templars were coming. It could have ended far worse.
I'll leave you to it.
Não, tem coisa ainda.
Greetings again, Inquisitor.
Tá tudo bem, criatura?
I trust everything is well with the mages.
We're mostly relieved. An alliance with the Inquisition offers security, although who knows for how long.
Ah, a gente já sabe já disso já.
I'll leave you to it.
Tchau, tia. Não, tem diálogo ainda, mas acho que já... A gente já sabe já a maioria. Pegando todos esses códices aqui, tem que... Assim, pra quem quiser platinar, tem que pegar não sei quantos. Uma porrada. Eu tô com um monte. Entregar pra pesquisa. Ah, dá pra gente entregar as coisinhas pra pesquisa. Aqui. Oi, criatura.
I am to serve as assistant to any research concerns.
Ok.
You'll find my skills are exceptional. I hope they prove useful.
You're taking over the duties of Minave.
Yes. A death provided the vacancy. I am told there are many who will miss her. My skills will ensure that you do not miss her ability.
You were made
É
tranquil.
porque teve muita gente que morreu lá no outro.
I am tranquil.
A gente não conseguiu salvar todo mundo.
It was necessary due to a willful nature that made wielding magic a dangerous endeavor. I remember that being a difficult time, but I cannot remember why. My skills are well used in my current position.
How can you serve the Inquisition?
I am to aid in the research of all creatures encountered in your efforts as leader of the Inquisition.
What makes you particularly qualified?
I remember being fond of animals. I don't remember why.
What is your evaluation of how we're doing?
Not optimal given the facilities. Skyhold should be improved, or our efforts will continue to suffer.
As you were.
Yes, Inquisitor.
Beleza. Ainda dá pra subir? Mais ainda? Examinar. Por condições de seus protegidos. Examinar mais coisa.
Sister Leliana will want access to the bones.
Bora pra fechar a fronteira.
Quickly.
Ui, eu esqueci que tem que... Beleza. E aí, criatura?
I'm sorry.
So am I.
Eita.
The names of those we lost. You must blame me for this.
We all saw who attacked us. We know exactly who to blame.
I keep wondering if I could have done something different. When the first of my lookouts went missing, I pulled the rest back, awaiting more information. If they'd stayed in the field, they could have bought us more time.
Ou
I
teriam
was
morrido
afraid to
mais.
lose my agents, and instead we lost Haven.
Ou poderíamos perder ambos.
More likely they would have stayed out there, died, and we would have lost Haven anyway.
You don't know that. Their lives could have bought Haven a small chance. My people know their duty. They know the risks. They understand that the Inquisition may call upon them to give their lives.
Nós... Eles não são descartáveis. Putz. Mas eu não sei se eu discordo com ela. Vamos ver.
True. There are soldiers. They'll do what we need them to.
If Corypheus is cold, I must be colder. War demands sacrifices of us all.
Você tem mais alguma coisa pra falar?
It seems Blackwall knows nothing about the disappearance of the Grey Wardens. It's a disappointment. I am, however, glad that he is with us, even if he was not what I expected. He seems
O que você esperava?
and his experience will be an asset to the Inquisition. As for the other Wardens, I suppose we will have to keep looking.
In Redcliffe, you sacrificed yourself so that I could return here.
Of course I did. One small life in exchange for a second chance at history. I always loved a bargain.
It was still a sacrifice, and still noble.
And I would do it again.
The Divine's death hit you hard. How have you been feeling?
Oh, you are referring to my outburst in Haven. I am much better now. She was a good friend, and it will take time to get used to her absence. But thank you for asking. It is appreciated.
They called you the left hand of the Divine.
That they did? What of it?
What is the point of an Inquisition?
Justinia would have started the Inquisition if the Divine Conclave failed to restore peace. She hoped that with enough support, we could challenge the very tenets of the Chantry. She wanted the Chantry to treat the mages fairly. But sometimes I wonder, why stop at mages? The Chantry has committed many injustices. If we're going to change it, why not change the whole thing? It's just a thought. None of this will be possible if we fail.
Sorry she didn't live to see the Inquisition.
So am I.
What exactly does the left hand of the Divine do?
A divine always has enemies, and Justinia had more than most. I protected her. I watched, had an ear to every door. I identified threats, and I dealt with them.
Why did Justinia have so many enemies?
There were many who felt she was unfit to be divine. She
Tem
had a
sempre uns.
past, a worldly life. Unlike many, she wasn't given to the Chantry as a child. She chose it, and somehow that made her unworthy. And because they
Credo.
thought she was unworthy, they wished her harm.
It sounds like you did some unscrupulous things as the left hand.
Perhaps.
Quero saber as
But wouldn't
fofocas.
you do anything to protect what you love?
I'd like to hear about Justinia. What was she like?
A friend. A mentor. Like me, she had secrets, made mistakes. It made her human. I think her followers responded to that.
How did you and Justinia meet?
I met her a long time ago, before she became divine. Before she was Justinia. When I met her, she was Mother Dorothea. I was at my lowest. Broken, lost. And she saved me. No, wait. She hates it when I say that. I saved myself. She just showed me it was possible.
Was there something more than friendship between you?
You're asking if we were lovers? Typical. I was devoted to her, therefore it must be romantic. Love is common. Love is simple. My bond with Justinia
Caramba.
was something greater. She was a sister, a mother, a teacher. So to answer your question, yes, it was more than friendship.
We'll talk more later.
Tchau, tchau, tia. Até daqui a pouco. Ué, tem o que aqui? Uma parede? Deixa eu colocar um tapetinho na parede. Beleza. A gente já falou com o último andar. Já falamos bastante com o segundo andar. Todo mundo. Vamos agora para esse andar aqui, que tem os seus solas que a gente já conversou com ele. Subir pra fazer o que aqui em cima? Ups.
There is something
Ô, minha
I
filha, o
wish
que
to
você tá
discuss.
fazendo aí?
My Lord Inquisitor,
Hmm.
it's good of you to speak with me. I have news regarding one of your companions, the Bem-vindo.
O que ele fez?
Has Dorian done something wrong?
No, thankfully. It's nothing like that. I have been in contact with his family. House Pavas out of Carenas. Are you familiar with them?
He's mentioned his family. They don't appear to be on good terms.
Yes. I believe you're correct. The family sent a letter describing the estrangement from their son and pleading for my aid. They've asked to arrange a meeting quietly without telling him. They fear it's the only way he'll come. Since you seem to be on good terms with the young man, I'd hoped...
Que tipo?
Just what kind of meeting do you have in mind?
I believe they just want to talk, to understand why Dorian felt he had to come here. Somewhere private, away from Skyhold, but not in Vem-vindo. You make them nervous, I think. They don't understand why he's here with the Inquisition. They want him to come home.
What happens if Dorian doesn't agree?
Hopefully that will be the end of it. If not, well, that's why you should be there.
Why Why would his family contact you?
Because they don't know you, Inquisitor. I am not of the Imperial Chantry, but they know what I represent. These are parents concerned about the welfare of their son. How could I not do whatever possible? I would speak to the young man myself, but he does not care for me. Thus I come to you. If any good can come of this, we must try.
They don't want Dorian to know. That seems odd.
They believe the young man would refuse, and the letter implies he'd have cause. Yet, they are remorseful for whatever came before. This is a chance for dialogue. There is deceit in bringing the young man to this meeting without his foreknowledge, I know. But does it not lead to a greater kindness if there is potential for reconciliation?
Isso é legítimo.
Are you sure this isn't some kind of trap? I mean, the secrecy.
That did occur to me. What if it is a plot of those mages, the Venatori? Another reason to put this in your hands, Inquisitor. I pray that isn't the case. But if it is, you are far better equipped than I to respond to such treachery.
Eu acho que eu vou pensar sobre o assunto, porque eu não sei.
See what I can do.
Bless you, Inquisitor. The family will send a retainer to meet the young man at the Red Cliff Tavern, to take him onward. If he truly does not wish this reunion, he can always end the matter there. I shall pray for your success, and the young man's happiness. That's all we can hope for, is it not?
Opcional. Conte a Dorian sobre a carta. Leve Dorian até a gaivota. Tá bom. Pode contar pra ele sobre a carta. Eu acho que eu vou contar. Peraí que eu me perdi. Pronto, achei. Me perco no time que eu acabei de chegar.
Related? Oh,
Huh?
not first cousins or anything like that. Can you imagine? You're a Trevelyan, however, and somewhere in dank nethers of my family tree, there was also a Trevelyan. Perhaps he was even the one who ventured to Ostwick to establish the branch. We are talking long ago, of course.
I'd rather we weren't related. That might make flirting awkward.
Depends on which branch of the family you come from. Regardless, I think we're still good to go. By at least 3 ages.
Aliás, diga a Dorian sobre o encontro planejado.
Dorian, there's a letter you need to see.
A letter? Is it a naughty letter? A humorous proposal from some Antivan dowager?
Not quite. It's from your father.
From my father. I see. And what does Magister Hallward want, pray tell?
A meeting.
Show me this letter. I know my son? What my father knows of me would barely fill a thimble. This is so typical. I'm willing to bet this retainer is a henchman, hired to knock me on the head and drag me back to Tevinter.
This could be the Venatori. Lure us somewhere remote, then an ambush.
Perhaps. Although this does look like my father's penmanship. Or could he have joined the Venatori? No, that can't. Well, anything is possible. Let's go. Let's meet this so-called family retainer. If it's a trap, we escape and kill everyone. You're good at that. If it's not, I send the man back to my father with a message that he can stick his alarm in his wit's end.
Vamos lá.
Let's go meet this retainer then.
I wonder how much my father paid this man to wait around just in case I showed. We'll find out soon enough.
Logo, logo descobriremos. Leve Dorian até a gaivota lampião. Bem, eu fiz o que é certo. Falar pra ele. Vamos ver. Eu quero ver agora de começar a fazer mais as quests do pessoal, entendeu? Do círculo interno. Como eles chamam. Eu tô com 42 de poder. Claro que dá pra fazer. A gente já falou com o Sola, já falou bastante com o Dorian, já falou bastante com a Liliana. Teve essa... Ah, a outra sumiu daqui. Enfim. Josephine tá aqui agora. Tem a missão. Tem um negócio de ponto de interrogação aqui. Viagem rápida, não quero saber. Eu quero vir agora aqui pra falar com o Varric. Também dá mais uma olhada aqui no lugar. Ficha de Tedas. O que é isso daqui? Procurar por Cole? Cadê o Cole?
This thing is not a stray puppy you can make into a pet. It has no business being here.
Wouldn't you say the same of an apostate?
A chata.
I wondered if Cole was perhaps a mage, given his unusual abilities.
He can cause people to forget him, or even fail entirely to notice him. These are not the abilities of a mage. It seems that Cole is a spirit.
It is a demon.
If you prefer, although the truth is somewhat more complex.
Complexica? Ou complexa?
I'm not sure how much more complexity I need, Solus.
Indeed, my dear. He may call it whatever he likes, but it is still a threat.
In fact, his nature is not so easily defined.
Speak plainly, Solus. What are we dealing with?
Demons normally enter this world by possessing something. In their true form, they look bizarre, monstrous.
But you claim Cole looks like a young man. Is it possession?
No. He has possessed nothing and no one. And yet he appears human in all respects. Cole is unique, Inquisitor. More than that, he wishes to help. I suggest you allow him to do so.
Fale mais sobre possessão. Vou falar com ele, vou me livrar dele. Tadinho! Fale mais sobre possessão.
What do you mean by possession?
Spirits and demons cross over from the Fade by attaching themselves to something in this world. But Cole has willfully manifested in human form without possessing anyone.
Os demônios na brecha.
The demons who came through the breach, or through the rifts, weren't possessing anything.
These demons were drawn through against their will, driven mad by this world. But Cole predates the breach. From what we can tell, he has lived here for months, perhaps years. He looks like a young man. For all intents and purposes, he is a young man. It is remarkable.
Vamos falar com ele.
I should hear what Cole has to say for himself. Where is he now?
If none of us remember him, he could be anywhere.
Haven. So many soldiers fought to protect the pilgrims so they could escape. Choking fear. Can't think from the medicine, but the cuts rack me with every heartbeat. Hot, white pain. Everything burns. I can't. I'm going to... I'm dying.
Calma, criatura, calma.
Dead.
Você tá bem?
You're feeling their pain.
It's louder this close, with so many of them.
Would you like to go somewhere more comfortable?
Yes, but here is where I can help. Every breath slower, like lying in a warm bath, sliding away. Smell of my daughter's hair when I kiss her goodnight. Gone. cracked brown pain. Dry, scraping, thirsty. Here.
Aí ele é tipo um empata, ele consegue ver... Ele consegue sentir sentimentos e as emoções dos outros. O que é você?
Solus tried to explain what you are, but honestly, I stopped listening after a while. Any chance you could explain it?
Yes. I used to think I was a ghost. I didn't know. I made mistakes, but I made friends too. Then a Templar proved I wasn't real. I lost my friends. I lost everything. I learned how to be more like what I am. It made me different, but stronger. I can feel more. I can help.
E que nos ajude, ele entrará para a Inquisição. E que nos ajude.
If you're willing, the Inquisition
Solos
could use
aprova,
your help.
Vivienne desaprova. Oh, essa Vivienne é foda, hein?
Helping. I help the hurt. The helpless. There's someone. Hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Someone make it stop hurting. Make her, please. The healers have done all they can. It will take him hours to die. Every moment will be agony. He wants mercy. Help.
You say he won't die for hours yet, but you can't know that for certain.
His body is failing.
He could recover. Or the healers could find another way to help him.
How do you know?
I don't. And neither do you. That's part of life.
Try. I want to stay.
O garoto esquecido. Cole aprova bastante. Code ser desbloqueado, Cole.
Inquisitor, is there something I can do for you? I should really focus my attention on the injured.
Ah, é só a investigação, né? Então, tchau.
Good day, Your Worship.
Send men to scout the area. We need to know what's out there.
Yes, sir.
Commander, soldiers have been assigned temporary quarters.
Very good. I'll need an update on the armory as well. Now! We set up as best we could at Haven, but could never prepare for an archdemon, or whatever it was. With some warning, we might have...
Foi uma situação difícil.
We were all shaken by what happened.
If Corypheus strikes again, we may not be able to withdraw. And I wouldn't want to. We must be ready. Work on Skyhold is underway. Guard rotations established. We should have everything on course within the week. We will not run from here, Inquisitor.
How many were lost?
Most of our people made it to Skyhold. It could have been worse. Morale was low, but has improved greatly since you accepted the role of Inquisitor.
Everyone has so much faith in my leadership. I hope I'm ready.
You won't have to carry the Inquisition alone, although it must feel like it. We needed a leader, and you have proven yourself.
You responded quickly to the attack on Haven. Without that, so many more would have died. I'm grateful for any help you can give.
Thank you, Inquisitor. I will do everything I can to ensure the security of our people. You have my word.
E aí, criaturinha?
Roderick was sorry before he died.
Did he tell you why he was sorry?
blood everywhere. Monsters, madness, dying. We're all dying. The herald stands against it, and heads turn. Desperate and simple, pure. Voices in the chantry. Years since I'd sung the song and felt it flowing through me. But this is real. This is real. So long since I'd felt it. Falling, flying, faith. And I fought him. Maker, forgive me. I hope I did enough.
Falei com vocês dois. Tem umas pessoas. Vivienne tá aqui. Blackwall tá aqui. Sarah tá aqui. Ouro de Ferro tá aqui. Cassandra tá aqui. É criatura. Também preciso fazer as missões do Varric também. Quem é você, criatura?
It's you. Your worship. I'm serving now. In a different way.
Ok. Olá, criatura medonha.
So, Inquisitor. It's Inquisitor now, right? Remember that war we talked about stopping? Full of little baddies I can stick with little arrows. That's not a friggin' archdemon, is it? Droste, what did I step in?
I've apparently been through a lot. Yes, Corypheus was a surprise.
No, a surprise would be, oh, I stepped in dog shite. No one says, oh, a Magister God monster, I'm surprised. Impossible things aren't surprises.
I can't help if you don't explain what's wrong exactly.
It's got to be nonsense, doesn't it? We're kind of screwed if it isn't. I mean, that Corypheus thing. A Magister, right? Story is, he cracked the Golden City. But that's a hazy dream. If not, Seat of the Maker, real thing. A seat needs a book, so the Maker, real thing. Fairy stories about the start and end of the world, real things. It's too far, isn't it? I just want to plug the Skyhole rubbish so I can go play.
Keep calling it nonsense.
Sarah prova pouco.
That perspective will keep the Inquisition grounded.
Oh, I can do that. Sure could use a few more people shouting no. We fight, the bad things go away, everyone calms down, and everything goes back to normal.
Simples,
A nice,
prático.
well-paid normal.
Gostei dela. Só siga ordens, maluca. Isso quase faz sentido.
You're starting to not sound completely crazy.
I know, scary, innit? So bring 'em on. But first, food. I'm starving.
Ok. Opa. Tome. Peraí. Oh, coisinha chata. Misericórdia.
It was
Ela
a
é muito
mistake
chata.
to use Haven as a base of operations. The town was completely indefensible.
It was a bad location.
Ah,
Should have
provou.
moved sooner.
Que bom.
You left yourself vulnerable to attack. It was a miscalculation, one that I'm sure you won't repeat. But the enemy struck a serious blow against you and the Inquisition. We must recognize that. You must.
Vai cuidar dos seus problemas. Muita coisa depende de mim. Funciona ao nosso favor. Ele vai pagar por isso. Não pude salvar todo mundo.
For every person I saved, 2 more were cut down. I failed them.
You haven't failed them, my dear.
Provou mais pouco.
The men and women who fight for you gave their lives for a great cause, and they fought to the end. The rest still fight, and you will fail them if you give up now. Our enemy advances, Inquisitor. We must not sit idly by. Act first and teach them to fear us. You can become the leader the faithful require, but you must do it soon.
Bom que ela falou alguma coisa boa a nosso favor. Ela provou alguma coisa. Bonita, né?
Come, let's walk the ramparts. I want to examine our fortifications.
Eu negligenciei por muito tempo conversar com todo mundo. Estamos seguros agora?
On the other hand, that means he can see us from miles away.
Let him come. I swear I'll take the twister bastard down, even if I have to die to do it.
I'm grateful for your support.
It's my job, isn't it? Killing Darkspawn. Look, in spite of it all, there is hope. The people flock to your banner. They believe in you. Tell me honestly, are you what they say you are? Andraste's chosen?
There's so little I remember. What if they're right?
Does it even matter? Don't you see what you are to them? Without you, they'd be consumed by despair. We all would. They need you to be Andraste's messenger. It gives them hope. The truth doesn't matter. Listen to me talk. Your time is valuable and I've wasted enough of it.
É ótimo assim. A gente tá precisando conversar com todo mundo, entendeu? Negligenciei demais isso. Até agora. E agora estamos só na fala. Não. Por que tem uma cama aqui? Longe de todo mundo. Eu não vou encostar nela. O Varric tá ali. Mas primeiro, deixa eu abrir aqui. Deixa eu ver. Nossa, tá muito... Como fala? Tá muito zoado esse lugar.
Inquisitor, meet Hawk, the champion of Kirkwall.
Você não é protagonista do 2?
Hawk, the Inquisitor. I figured you might have some friendly advice about Corypheus. You and I did fight him after all.
This view reminds me of my home in Kirkwall. I had a balcony that overlooked the whole city. I loved it at first. But after a while, all I could see were the people out there depending on me.
You're lucky it was just a single city. I've got half of Thedas.
You're doing everything you can to protect them.
Does it ever get any easier?
I'll let you know. I don't envy you, Inquisitor. But I may be able to help you.
Varric said that you fought Corypheus before.
Fought and killed. The Grey Wardens were holding him, and he somehow used his connection to the Darkspawn to influence them.
Corypheus got into their heads, messed with their minds, turned them against each other.
If the Wardens have disappeared, they could have fallen under his control again.
If that's what happened to the Wardens, do you think we can free them?
It's possible. But we need to know more first. I've got a friend in the Wardens. He was investigating something unrelated for me. His name is Stroud. The last time we spoke, he was worried about corruption in the Warden ranks. Since then, nothing.
Corypheus would certainly qualify as corruption in the ranks. Did your friend disappear with them?
No. He told me he'd be hiding in an old smuggler's cave near Crestwood.
If you didn't know about Corypheus, what were you doing with the Wardens?
The Templars in Kirkwall were using a strange form of lyrium. It was red. I'd hoped the Wardens could tell me more about it.
Corypheus had Templars with him at Haven. They looked like they'd been exposed to the lyrium you describe.
Hopefully my friend in the Wardens will know more.
I appreciate the help.
I'm doing this as much for myself as for you. Corypheus is my responsibility. I thought I'd killed him before. This time, I'll make sure of it. Inquisitor.
Vamos investigar um pouquinho
You
mais.
said you thought you killed Corypheus.
The Grey Wardens had him imprisoned. They used my father's blood in a ritual to seal Corypheus inside. But he could still reach out and influence.
Provavelmente eu tô vendo um monte de spoiler do 2 antes de jogar o 2, mas tudo
And I
bem.
didn't just think I killed him. When the fight was done, he was dead on the ground. Maybe his tie to the Blight somehow brought him back. Or maybe it's old Tevinter magic. But he was dead. I swear it.
Where did you go after the mages rebelled?
I heard the Chantry might be sending an exalted march to Kirkwall to put down the rebellion. I hoped that leaving would save lives and force the Divine to divide her forces to come after me. As it turned out, I needn't have bothered. All the circles started rising up, and the exalted march never came.
Varric said you were the champion of Kirkwall. I've only heard a little about what happened there.
What happened at Kirkwall was the same thing that happened everywhere. Fearful of blood magic and abominations, the Templars brutally suppressed the Circle. And in their desperation to survive, the mages of the Circle turned to blood magic, or became abominations. Finally, a rebel mage named Anders destroyed Kirkwall's Chantry, and everything came tumbling down.
I heard that Anders was your friend. What was he like?
I don't know if there ever was just an Anders. He was crazy. By the end, there was nothing left in him except this insane need to start a war no one could win.
I heard you had family and friends in Kirkwall. Where are they now?
When the Wardens began acting strangely, I had my friend Aveline take my brother out of the Free Marches. My uncle Gamlen's still in Kirkwall, but everyone else I used to know, they've pretty much scattered to the winds.
Assume Varric's been feeding you information about the Inquisition. What did he say about me?
Only good things, I promise. I was a little surprised, actually. Varric isn't one for religion in general, but he thinks highly of the Inquisition.
We'll talk later.
I'll meet you at Crestwood.
Aqui jaz o abismo, poder necessário. 8 meses de guerra para encontrar o guardião. Quero ver se tem mais alguma coisa pra gente. Caramba, eu tô com 42 de poder. Tem missão com Cullen. Caramba, só sei que veio, tipo, muita missão.
Majestic. How was a place like this ever lost?
Não sei. Como é que eu vou chegar lá? Quem é você?
Scout Harding.
Your worship.
Quais as novidades?
What's been going on?
Seeker Cassandra came through here, looking like a storm cloud. That's just her face, though, isn't it?
Bom.
Nice chatting.
Putz, eu preciso ir lá. Eu vou falar com esses dois e depois eu vou lá ver a outra missão do Cullen.
That Tevinter guy sent you into the future?
A magia Tevinterana vai longe demais. Estranho, não?
Every time I think I understand magic, the rules change.
I know, right? If I were a mage, I'd just throw fire at people. That's honest.
Adorei.
Inquisitor, huh? Well, you've got the fortress for it. Speaking of which, when you've got a second, there's something I want to show you.
What did you want me to come see?
Here, come on. I'll show you.
Missão B.
Why am I dressed like this?
You'll see. Come on. It'll be worth your time, I promise. Evening. Iron Bull. My merc band just joined up.
Tanner. I'm from Jader. Well, near Jader.
Mira. I was guard captain for Lady Pendel. Signed on after shit blew up at the Conclave. Share a drink? Who's your friend?
This is Grim. He doesn't talk much.
Hey.
So, you ready to kill some demons? Or Venatori, or whatever that Corypheus asshole is?
This isn't just about killing. We're helping the Inquisitor save the world and build the next empire.
Well, long as I get paid, I'm happy. That's why I signed up.
I just couldn't spend my whole life on a farm. Needed to live a little, you know.
What about you, Mira? Why'd you join up? I thought you were serving some noble.
I saw what happened at Haven. The Inquisitor staring down that monster and his archdemon. I don't sing the chant of light as much as I should. But you can't see something like that and not believe.
Well, Grim and I should find our tents. Thanks for the drink.
Eles não reconheceram.
I know every soldier under my command. You don't have that option, but a few faces might help.
It was good to get their perspective.
Yeah. Sounds like we could use an easy win for boys like Tanner. And vets like Mira have seen enough to be wary. You've got a good army coming along. Remember that. No matter what comes next.
Aprendizado de vida. Oh, tamo longe pra caramba. Me desloca assim, tipo, puff. E aí, criatura? Eita, preula. Eita, calma.
Conniving little shit. You kidnapped me. You interrogated me. What did you expect?
Calma aí.
Enough.
You're taking his side?
I said enough.
Chega. Calma.
We needed someone to lead this Inquisition. Hawk was our only hope. He was the champion of Kirkwall. The mages respected him. And you kept him from us.
The Inquisition has a leader.
Hawk would have been at the Conclave if anyone could have saved Most Holy.
Gente, o que aconteceu? Aconteceu.
I can't change the past, Cassandra.
So I must accept what? That the Maker wanted all this to happen? That he... Varric is a liar, Inquisitor. A snake. Even after the Conclave, when we needed Hawk most, Varric kept him secret.
He's with us now. We're on the same side.
We all know whose side you're on, Varric. It will never be the Inquisition's.
Precisamos trabalhar juntos.
Attacking him now won't help us, Cassandra.
Ha! Exactly.
And you better not be keeping anything else from us.
Toma, também. É que também se o protagonista do 2 estivesse no conclave, não ia ter jogo, né?
We have so much at stake. Go, Varric. Just go.
You know what I think? If Hawk had been at the temple, he'd be dead too. You people have done enough to him.
I believed him. He spun his story for me and I swallowed it. If I just explained what was at stake, if I just made him understand. But I didn't, did I? I didn't explain why we needed Hawk. I'm such a fool.
Tivesse sido diferente.
What if you hadn't believed him and you tracked Hawk down?
Honestly, Hawk might not even have agreed to become Inquisitor. He supported the Mage Rebellion, after all. He wouldn't have trusted me for a second. But this isn't about Hawk, or even Varric. Not truly. I should have been more careful. I should have been smarter. I don't deserve to be here.
You're too hard on yourself, Cassandra.
Not hard enough, I think.
You can't believe that.
I want you to know, I have no regrets. Maybe if we'd found Hawk, the Maker wouldn't have needed to send you. But he did. You're not what I'd pictured. But if I've learned anything, it's that I know less than nothing.
Ok. Não tem mais nada pra falar com a gente, né?
Something is troubling me, Inquisitor. Leliana is receiving reports of mages becoming possessed, Templars going rogue. No one is dealing with these matters. I was hoping we might, before they get worse.
Claro.
We can certainly look into it.
I will mark these incidents on the map as I learn of them, Inquisitor. And I would be pleased to accompany you if and when you investigate.
Do you have any advice for me?
Tell that demon, what does it call itself? Cole. Tell it to leave. He may not mean harm, but that does not mean he will not harm us. Spirits are not creatures to take at face value. Be cautious with him, Inquisitor.
Que mais?
Do you have any advice for me?
Treat Dorian with caution. It's possible he could be what he seems, a Tevinter mage wishing to do better than his countrymen. What if he is not? At best, his presence makes the Inquisition appear to have questionable allies.
Do you have any advice for me?
Watch the treasury carefully, with that Sarah present.
You think she's here to rob us?
Possibly not, but I would hardly put it past her.
Do you have any advice for me?
It's good that you recruited Enchanter Vivian into the Inquisition. She is ambitious, but has always shown sense in her dealings with the Chantry. My advice would be to watch her, but heed her when she speaks. That one wastes no words.
Do you have any advice for me?
We must guard Skyhold carefully. There is no telling when Corypheus will next attack.
Do you have any advice for me?
Watch the new recruits. Liliana says spies are inevitable, and I agree.
Do you have any advice for me?
Nothing I can think of. No.
Do you have any advice for me?
You know what you need to do, Inquisitor.
Não tem mais, né?
Do you have any advice for me?
We must root out the Red Templars. They form the bulk of Corypheus's forces.
Do you have any advice for me?
Watch the new recruits. Liliana says spies are inevitable, and I agree.
Agora começou.
May I ask you about the Chantry?
É, o negligencia demais.
What becomes of the Chantry now? They have no Templars, no leadership, and no one left who is worthy of succeeding the Divine. It has fallen apart when everyone needs it the most. I ache to think what this will mean in the days to come.
I'm surprised you rebelled against the Chantry.
I left my own order when they took the wrong path. It is no different. But in neither case did I stop caring. Indeed, I care so much that I feel drastic action is necessary. I suppose history shall one day judge my actions.
Will the Chantry replace Divine Justinian?
They will try. Once the priests withdraw for the Grand Consensus, it is against Chantry law for them to emerge without naming a new Divine. Sometimes it takes days, or weeks, or even months. The problem now is that no clear successor to Justinia exists. All worthy clerics died with her at the Conclave.
So what happens if they can't agree on someone?
Theoretically, they will argue until exhaustion takes them or they see reason. Practically, however, if the Grand Consensus goes on too long, the Chantry will crumble. Any cleric with ambition but little sense will see this as her one chance, and plenty of such clerics exist. We shall see what happens. The Inquisition must act in the meantime.
If they do choose a new divine, will you serve her?
That depends on whether she would have me. I am a rebel now, remember? And even if she would, I do not know. It would depend on what type of divine she is. I am no longer in a position to follow blindly, and no new divine could expect such obedience now.
Do you really believe the Chantry is worth preserving?
If you ask my opinion, it is. Absolutely. Cast the Chantry aside and new problems replace old ones. We will have learned nothing from history. The people need stability, and the Chantry needs a new purpose. Andraste had a dream for us. It can still be achieved.
So what should that new purpose be?
A dedication to what is truly important. Instead of building cathedrals and sewing gowns for the divine, the Chantry used to spend its coin feeding the poor. If we are to spread the Maker's word across the world, we must do so with open hearts and open hands.
That sounds rather idealistic of you.
Does it? I do not think it's so unachievable. The Chantry has many good, honest people. They just need direction and inspiration. They need to be freed from centuries of adherence to tradition and ceremony. A chance for renewal is at our fingertips. It does not have to come with utter chaos.
Por enquanto é tudo. Assuntos pendentes. Tem nova missão. E você tem mais alguma coisa que dê pra fazer?
I'd like to know more about the Kunari.
Quero resgatar. Eu quero. Como fala? Pegar todos os diálogos de todo mundo agora nessa leva. Pra gente já ficar já no 0 a 0. Entendeu? Pra depois, quando eu fizer mais missões, voltar e falar com eles. Parece interessante.
What I've heard about them sounds fascinating.
What you've heard was mostly horse shit. All right. What do you want to know?
The word Kunari, is that the race or the religion?
Both. Kind of. The humans and elves who follow the Qun are the Vidathari. The Kunari who break away from the Qun are Talvasha, deserters.
What about Kunari who existed before the Qun?
The people we came from. They're called the Kossith, but we don't use that word for the race. We came south to Thedas because the Kossith were... I don't know. We had to leave. The stories aren't clear. But I don't expect they look much like us. Whatever they are.
How do the Kunari rule themselves?
It's pretty simple. We've got the matriarchy, the priesthood, and the military. The priesthood figures out how Kunari should live in theory. The matriarchy makes it work in practice. And the military keeps the Kunari safe from outside threats.
Does it actually work like that? Is there much infighting?
Not like you're thinking of. People disagree, yeah, but the priests are there to solve disagreements. Here in Olay, politicking comes from people putting their own gain ahead of the gains of society. If you do that among the Kunari, the Ben Hasrath set you straight, or kill you.
I heard there's no marriage among the Kunari.
Yeah, that's true. Kunari love our friends like anyone does, but we don't have sex with them.
Kunari don't have sex?
Oh, we definitely have sex. They're Tamasrans who pop your cork whenever you need it.
Eita.
Seriously?
Yes. It's not a big deal like it is here. It's like, I don't know, going to see a healer. Sometimes it's this long, involved thing. It takes all day, leaves you walking funny. Other times you're in and out in 5 minutes. Thank you. See you next week.
Eu não sei nem o que dizer.
That sounds different.
Yep. Still, it's more fun here. Fewer rituals, more making it up as you go along. Plus, you folk have redheads. Redheads.
What's it like growing up under the Qun?
The Tamasrans raise us in these units of kids all our own age. They're like teachers or chantry sisters. They also help figure out what jobs we should do. They had me pegged for military work early on. When they learned I could hit stuff and lie, they started training me for the Ben Hasra.
Must have been a good day for you.
Yes, it's like being a block of stone with a sculptor working on you. One day, the last of the crap gets knocked off, and you can see your real shape. What you're supposed to be. That's a good day.
How is everyday life different for Qunari?
Depends on your job, I guess. Some are just about the same. A baker in Val Royeaux gets up, gets dressed, and starts work. A baker in Parvolan does the same thing. They don't care about the Empire or the Qun. Mostly they worry about breaking eggs and hope the dough rises right.
It can't be exactly the same. The Qunari have no personal freedoms.
How many personal freedoms do you figure that baker in Val Royeaux has? Life isn't about freedom. The baker in Parvolan wonders if she'll be given enough eggs to do her work. Will they come on time? Will the kitchen workers get her bread while it's fresh, or will they come late and blame her because it's stale? Same crap in Val Royeaux. People are just people.
Do you ever think about what would happen if the Qunari conquered Orlais or Ferelden?
Some folks, like Cassandra or Cullen, would do fine if they didn't die fighting. Those two love rules. But the mages... Vivienne's too political. Dorian's too arrogant, and Solus is just... weird. They'd all end up dead. Or worse. They'd kill Cole, cause, you know, demon. And Sarah would end up with her mind broken, sweeping floors in some shop. So, to answer your question, no. I don't think about it much at all.
Entendi.
See you later, Bull.
Nice talking with you, boss.
Tem mais nada não?
What can I do for you?
Tem.
So how did you get the name Iron Bull?
I picked it. We don't have names under the Qun. Just, I don't know. Job descriptions, I guess. When I came to Orlais, I chose the Iron Bull for myself.
Por quê?
Why specifically Iron Bull?
This may surprise you, but I really like hitting things. Also, it's the Iron Bull, technically. I like having an article at the front. It makes it sound like I'm not even a person, just a mindless weapon.
O artigo é
An
muito
implement of
grande.
destruction. That
Artigo na
really
frente
works for me.
da importância.
See you later, Bull.
Nice talking with you, boss.
Tem mais alguma coisa não?
Hey, boss.
Não. Pô.
See you later.
Aliás, você... Bem, você eliminou já tudo que eu tinha pra falar já, beleza. Cadê? Não. É Cassandra. Você já eliminou tudo que eu tinha pra falar?
Inquisitor.
I have some more questions.
Ainda não.
Why am I not surprised?
Tell me about your brother.
I would prefer not to speak of Anthony. Another time, perhaps.
I'll let you get back to work.
Eu acho que não tem mais nada. Deixa eu ver. Fala sobre os
Can you
investigadores.
tell me more about the Seekers?
The Seekers of Truth were born from the original Inquisition long ago, when it united with the Chantry. Seekers stood above the Templars, watching over them but also investigating magical events they couldn't handle. We were meant to be incorruptible, above reproach. How seldom does reality match the ideal?
How does someone become a Seeker?
Most Seekers begin training in their youth. I was much older, an exception due to my noble birth. We train rigorously for years. Our bodies and minds must be elastic to undergo the vigil, and most fail even then.
Is the vigil some kind of initiation?
It is the rite every Seeker must go through in order to summon their gifts. A full year of fasting, prayer, and separation from all distractions, including other people. We empty ourselves of all emotion, focusing only on the purity of our devotion. And the moment it finally ends, it's wonderful. Faith realized. I cannot put it into words.
I wish I could experience that.
If the vigil was not so arduous, I'd say more should attempt it. What if mages never needed to fear possession by demons? I'm told it is impossible, however. I suppose I'll never know the truth of it now.
Why did your order turn against the Chantry?
We originally united with the Chantry through a treaty that stated they would keep mages under control. It was felt Most Holy had tacitly allowed the Circle of Magi to vote on its independence, thus breaking the treaty. The Seekers saw themselves as justified, and they led the Templars into a war of righteousness.
You sound like you disagree.
We knew what was happening at Kirkwall, where the Mage Rebellion began. We looked into reports of Knight Commander Meredith's harsh treatment of her charges years earlier. But we found so many shocking cases of magical corruption, it was decided her actions were justified. If we'd been there when it happened, if we'd looked harder at the root causes...
You're right. Something should have been done.
When faced with a problem, the Seekers would close ranks and crush it. We would find an answer, but only once we felt we weren't being coerced. The moment the mages voted for independence, our response was predictable. It was difficult to watch.
But what are Seekers exactly?
Those who know anything of us think we are Templars. We do not use lyrium, however. Our abilities are different, as was our original purpose. We disciplined the Templars and were accountable only to the Divine. And not even her, truthfully.
So the Seekers commanded the Templars?
No. The Order didn't assume command until after the rebellion. The Templars have always feared us. When a Seeker arrived at a circle, they knew trouble was afoot. That kind of power is troubling. You begin to think you are the only one who can solve the world's problems. If you don't see a problem, it doesn't exist. If someone insists it does, they are the blind ones.
Do you think that kind of problem could ever be fixed?
Possibly. Though the Seekers themselves would need to change. They were clearly not willing to, even though they abandoned everything they stood for to avoid it. In my heart, I believe they can still be salvaged, but not by their own hands.
You mentioned that Seekers have different abilities than Templars.
Entirely. A Templar's abilities come from lyrium and are designed to hunt mages. Ours come from ritual and many years of dedicated training. We cannot be possessed by demons and are immune to mind control. Useful considering our role. Seekers can gain other gifts, though that depends on the individual.
E quais são os seus?
What kind of gifts do you have?
I can set the lyrium within a person's blood aflame. Both mages and Templars bend before my will. Some Seekers use it to interrogate, others simply to paralyze. Once there was a Seeker who could use it to kill. That particular gift is considered rare.
Eita.
I've no more questions.
Do you need something?
Não tem mais nada.
That's enough for now.
Por enquanto.
Another time, then.
Os conselhos estão tudo repetindo e ela não ainda não coisa pra falar no negócio. Então, não dá por enquanto pra falar mais com ela. Blackwall, tem mais alguma coisa pra falar com você? A gente tá gastando tudo agora, tá? Os guardiões estão corrompidos?
Varric's friend Hawk said there were suspicions of corruption in Grey Warden ranks. Do you know anything about that?
Corruption? What sort of corruption?
Corypheus. He's been known to influence the minds of Wardens.
That could very well explain why so many have disappeared.
If this is true, then all Wardens are in danger. Even you. We'd better find your brothers.
I agree. If Hawk's given you an idea where to start, we should get moving immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the Grey Wardens. You must know a lot about them.
Ah, the Wardens. I'm afraid we're less exciting than we seem.
How do the Wardens deal with archdemons?
Short answer. Stick it with swords until it stops moving.
I'll trust that you know what you're talking about.
We'll manage, if it comes to that.
Let's continue this at another time.
As you wish. I'll be here if you need me.
Mais alguma coisa?
I'm here.
What do you think of the Inquisition?
If we mobilized all the Inquisition's forces, Thedas itself would shake beneath our feet.
What do you think of the Inquisition's cause?
Restoring order is a goal I support wholeheartedly. But that's not the end of it, is it? Not by a half. The Lady Seeker believes we are restoring the Chantry. Others say it needs reform. I don't know where you stand on the matter, and I'll admit I haven't made up my mind either.
You must have some feelings about our friends.
Sarah doesn't know who she is or what she wants. And doesn't even care.
You must have some feelings about our friends.
Sarah doesn't know who she is or what she wants. And doesn't even care.
Ah, esse tá repetindo.
What do you think of my advisors?
Josephine's lovely, and craftier than you'd expect. The Inquisition could not have picked a better ambassador.
What do you think of my advisors?
Leliana seems nice. Also a little frightening, but mostly nice.
Does Leliana frighten you? Has she said anything to you?
No, she hasn't said anything. I'd just rather not offend her. I don't want to wake up with a blade in my kidneys if I can help it.
What do you think of my advisors?
Cullen. He's got the look of a man who's been through too much. He's seen the best and the worst of humanity, and I think he still struggles with where that leaves him. Still, I trust him to watch my back.
What do you think of my advisors?
Cullen. He's got the look of a man who's been through too much. He's seen the best and the worst of humanity, and I think he still struggles with where that leaves him. Still, I trust him to watch my back.
Acabou.
Later then.
Até, tchau, tio. E você, ô coisa chata?
I wanted to ask you about the Circle of Magi.
Of course. What do you wish to know?
If the Circle disbanded, how can you still belong to it?
The Circle is an idea, my dear. And an idea cannot be dissolved. Many of the first enchanters voted for rebellion, caring little that anything short of a unanimous decision would pit mage against mage. Rather than dissolving it, Grand Enchanter Fiona's vote split the Circle in two. The rebels follow her, the loyalists follow me.
If you lead all the loyalists, why are you only First Enchanter and not Grand Enchanter?
Grand Enchanters are elected, and since there are no First Enchanters besides myself, no vote can be held. I could name myself Grand Enchanter, but the title holds no meaning now. When the circles are restored, that will change.
What was it like to live in a circle?
My dear, your question is the root of all problems with mages. I cannot tell you. Every circle was different. Their Templars were different, their politics unique. And every person within each tower had an experience of circle life unique to themselves. Some people suffered and some were content. Some were cruel, some compassionate, and some indifferent. The same is true of people everywhere, in all circumstances, whether they are mages or not.
E a sua?
Tell me about your personal experience with the Circle.
I enjoyed life in the Montsimard Circle, my dear. It was an edifice devoted to knowledge and refinement. And mages need the company of other mages. No one else can truly understand the challenges we face, nor see the world as we do.
You must have been under constant supervision, being forced by Templars to live in the tower. Was that hard to endure?
My dear, I have a suite in the palace and a wing at my dear Duke Bastien's estate. I've never been forced to live anywhere. Most circles allowed mages to live away from the tower, either on their own or in service to the nobility. All that was required was permission from the first enchanter. Some circles were harsher in their restrictions. Kirkwall was the worst, but it was the exception. Most were quite permissive, perhaps too permissive in retrospect.
How did we come to this state with the circles in revolt?
A failure of perspective that infected circle leadership. Mages lived solely in a world of Templars and mages. They could not even imagine what was beyond the tower walls. Kirkwall gave the world a reason to remember its fear of magic. A mage killed hundreds with a snap of their fingers. Across Thedas, a new tangible fear of magic grew. Commoners and nobles alike called out to the Chantry for protection. But the malcontents in the towers thought nothing of this. They cared only for themselves and for their anger at the new Templar restrictions. When a mage attempted to assassinate Divine Justinia, again, the mages protested the investigation. The leadership chose to vote on independence based on the intolerable conditions imposed by the Templars, sparing no thought to the fact that magic was more feared in the aftermath of these attacks than it had been since Tevinter's day. So long as they had their freedom, they could care little for riots, angry mobs, or about pitting mages against each other.
Are you familiar with Grand Enchanter Fiona?
We've met. Before her horrendously ill-timed and selfish vote for independence, I thought her adequate at her job. In her dotage, she could not handle looking after the well-being of so many people. We would have done better to replace her years ago, to let her spend time gardening.
Did they have cause to rebel?
In the aftermath of their terrorist attacks? Was that really the most opportune time to break away? By all means protest abuses by the Templars. Just don't do it in a way that says mages support wholesale murder. By voting when they did, my colleagues all but declared war upon the ordinary people of Thedas. A war in which we are outnumbered 100 to 1.
I thought the fighting was only between mages and Templars. Why are mages fighting mages?
The vote for independence was carried by only a small margin, but Fiona chose to let the motion stand. Those who opposed a rash declaration of war against the entire free world had little choice. By breaking from the Chantry when they did, the rebels declared themselves in support of mass murder. Anyone who did not wish to support terrorism and the slaughter of innocents was forced to take arms against the rebels.
Tem mais alguma coisa? É, agora não mais, né? A gente
I'd like to know more about you, Madame Vivienne.
A gente já tem 2 no páreo.
Your accent's not Orlesian. Where exactly are you from?
I am from the Circle, my dear. One's country of origin rarely matters there. But if you must know, I was born in Wycombe in the Free Marches. I was sent to the Ostwick Circle, but I transferred to Monsignor while still an apprentice.
I'm curious how a Circle mage winds up a courtier.
Nobody winds up at court, my dear. It takes a great deal of effort to arrive there. I caught the eye of Duke Bastien de Ghislaine, an advantageous connection that opened many doors. When the position of Enchanter to the Imperial Court became vacant, I was able to secure it.
You're married to the Duke de Ghislaine?
Of course not, my dear. Don't be ridiculous. Marriage is the business of alliance and inheritance. I'm Bastien's mistress.
And what does the Duchess de Ghislaine think of this arrangement?
Fofocas tão boas.
We got along quite well. Duchess Nicoline and I used to host musical salons together.
Caraca.
She was a great patron of the arts. She passed away from a fever a few years ago, the poor dear.
What duties does a court enchanter have?
I am tasked with providing assistance to the Empress on arcane matters. Most of my predecessors restricted this to lighting lamps and doing parlor tricks. In such troubled times as these, however, I provide political advice to Her Majesty on the subject of the Mage Rebellion.
Do you think that you and I might, someday...
I don't see how that benefits me in the slightest, my dear.
Ela é chata. Chatinha.
Demon armies and wardens, and Varric
Você tem
has
mais
exactly
alguma
who we
coisa?
need. The big talker just knows everything.
Não sei a Inquisição. Nossa! Fale do seu passado. Conte sobre seus amigos. Vá em frente.
So, you like to have fun. The Inquisition seems an odd fit. Why are you really here?
What do you mean? To help people.
It's starting to sound like you're looking for something more.
It is. Mostly. Okay, fine. There's talk and... I want to see.
See what?
I don't know. I've got all this chantry stuff in my head, and it makes sense, right? But it's fuzzy. I want to see if it's all really real. I just don't know if I want to really know. So I'm selfish. It's all for me. Count yourself lucky, I guess.
Tell me about yourself.
What about me?
Quem lhe treinou?
You're skilled. Who taught you how to use a bow?
No one.
That seems unlikely.
What? I picked it up here and there. Mostly it just makes sense. It's not like that for you.
Usually it takes considerable discipline. Hence my question.
Hence? Look, I work at it. Practice a little. Not like Cullen and his pets. I mean, you miss, then you don't. Is it that hard to see when it's wrong?
Is it an elf thing?
Most I know couldn't find an arrow sitting on it. Right. Maybe I just make it look easy in shite company. Fact still is, no teacher. Where would I find one in alleyways anyway?
You're not like most of the elves I've met.
Thanks, right? Or was that an insult?
Não.
Suppose I could go barefoot and whine more. Like that's soulless, right? Never be as good as we were. Well, who's we? I'm just fine.
There's a lot of tradition there. Should it just be thrown away?
Your great-grandfather's dead. Why aren't you dead? You're throwing away tradition.
That makes sense to you.
None of it does in the city. That's why I'm not like an elf.
How about the basics? Where are you from?
Ferelden?
I got that from the accent. Where in Ferelden?
All over? Okay, fine. Denerim for a bit. South, north, wherever I want.
There are no connections you want to mention at all?
Nope.
How very Kunari of you.
What?
Never mind.
Good, right?
Tchau.
We'll talk later.
If you say so.
É meio doidinha, mas tem que tomar cuidado com o... Como fala? Tem que tomar cuidado com o que fala, porque eu vi que tem um diálogo lá que chuta ela. Não quero chutar ela pra fora, não. Aliás, o que tem de missão? Coisa. Não tem nada. Estão bem aqui. Mas o Colin tá aqui.
Was there something you needed?
É o que eu devo saber?
Is there anything I should know?
I'm glad to have the charges on our side. Bull's men are professionals, despite evidence to the contrary.
I'd like to know more about the Templars.
What would you like to know?
Why did you join the Order?
I could think of no better calling than to protect those in need. I used to beg the Templars at our local chantry to teach me. At first, they merely humored me, but I must have shown promise, or at least a willingness to learn. The Knight Captain spoke to my parents on my behalf. They agreed to send me for training. I was 13 when I left home.
13? That's still so young.
I wasn't the youngest there. Some children are promised to the Order at infancy. Still, I didn't take on full responsibilities until I was 18. The Order sees you trained and educated first.
E sua família, tio?
What about your family? Did you miss them?
Of course, but there were many my age who felt the same. We learned to look out for one another.
Do the Templars do anything besides hunt mages?
Templars protect against the dangers of magic. Before the Order left the Chantry, that meant serving in a circle. They were also tasked with tracking apostates or fighting demons inevitably summoned by the weak or malicious.
You've made it clear that you consider mages a threat.
Any mage can be. I won't pretend otherwise. I've seen the suffering magic can inflict. I've treated mages with distrust because of it, at times without cause. That was unworthy of me. I will try not to do so here. Not that I want mages moving through our base completely unchecked. We need safeguards in place to protect people, including mages, from possession at the least.
You've lived in the Circle. What was a typical day for a Templar there?
Typical. The last time I was in a circle was right before it fell apart. Nothing was typical.
Before that, then?
Certain rituals require a full guard. A mage's harrowing, for instance. I've attended a few. Most of the time, you merely maintain a presence, on patrol or in the circle, ready to respond if needed. Mages pretend to ignore that presence, but they're watching you just as closely.
Do Templars and mages never speak to each other?
Some do. But Templars are supposed to maintain a certain distance from their charges. If a mage is possessed or uses blood magic, you must act quickly, without hesitation. Your judgment cannot be clouded. Of course, ignoring one another does nothing to foster understanding.
What does Templar training involve?
There is weapon and combat training. Even without their abilities, Templars are among the best warriors in Thedas. Initiates must also memorize portions of the Chant of Light, study history, and improve their mental focus.
Did you enjoy your training?
I wanted to learn everything. If I was giving my life to this, I would be the best Templar I could.
You were a model student.
I wanted to be. I wasn't always successful. Watching a candle burn down while reciting the Chant of Transfigurations wasn't the most exciting task. I admit, my mind sometimes wandered.
Do Templars take vows? I swear to the Maker to watch all the mages, that sort of thing.
There's a vigil first. You're meant to be at peace during that time, but your life is about to change. When it's over, you give yourself to a life of service. That's when you're given a filter, your first draft of lyrium and its power. As Templars, we are not to seek wealth or acknowledgement. Our lives belong to the Maker and the path we have chosen.
Acho que isso foi tudo por enquanto.
Thank you.
Should you require anything, I'll be here.
Tem mais nada pra você falar, né? Ah, dá pra saber mais sobre ele também, mas eu quero saber também da missão que tem lá naquele pontinho. Eu vou conseguir encontrar. Ou não.
I grew up in Ferelden, near Honleith. I was transferred to Kirkwall shortly after the Blight. Traveling to Haven was the first I'd returned in almost 10 years.
You were away from Ferelden for 10 years. Was it strange being back there again?
Strange? No. If anything, the opposite. I was not sorry to leave Ferelden when I did. I had no desire to return. But leaving Haven was more difficult than I would have imagined. Not just because Corypheus forced it upon us. It felt like I was abandoning my home. I never thought I'd feel that way again.
You were in Ferelden during the Blight. Did you fight Darkspawn?
No. I was stationed at Ferelden's Circle Tower. The Circle had troubles of its own. I remained there during the Blight.
What happened at the Circle Tower?
Few who survived the Blight have fond memories of that time. I would prefer not to speak of it.
Yeesh.
What was Kirkwall like?
While I was there, Canary occupied and then attacked the city. The Viscount's murder caused political unrest. Relations between mages and Templars fell apart. An apostate blew up the Chantry, and the Knight Commander went mad. Other than that, it was fine.
What happened between Kirkwall's mages and Templars?
You were at the Conclave. You must have heard people speak of it.
Yes, but you were there.
There was tension between mages and Templars long before I arrived. Eventually, it reached a breaking point. There was fighting in the streets. Abominations began killing both sides. It was a nightmare.
What happened then?
The Templars should have restored order, but Red Lyrium had driven Knight Commander Meredith mad. She threatened to kill Kirkwall's champion, turned on her own men. I'm not sure how far she would have gone. Too far.
So you opposed her?
I stood with the champion against her, in the end. I should have seen through Meredith sooner.
Varric's from Kirkwall. Did you two know each other?
I knew he was friends with the champion of Kirkwall, but little else. We've spoken more since I joined the Inquisition, largely at Varric's insistence. Apparently, I spend too much time with a serious expression on my face, and it's bad for my health.
I'll let you return to your work.
Another time, then.
Tem uns pedaços de coisa pra lá. Fora isso, tô vendo se tem mais alguma outra coisa. Deixa eu ver se tem mais alguma coisinha. O da Fortaleza, que é exatamente onde tá o pontinho lá de interrogação. Ele tá ali, mas não dá pra ir pra lá. Entendeu? Não dá pra passar pra lá. Eu não consegui. E tem o outro lado. Eu acho que é mais pra frente. Tem um bando de sujeira no meio do caminho. E eu não consegui subir. Aliás, cadê o Varric? Queria gastar os diálogos com ele e ele meio que sumiu. Tá vendo, ó? Tá tudo bloqueado. Eu acho que só mais pra frente que a gente vai conseguir, como fala, passar pro outro lado. E aí é onde tá o ponto de exclamação pra gente seguir em missão. Eu preciso saber onde é que tá o Varric. Na verdade, ele tá aqui. Exatamente aqui. Vamos lá, meu filho. Falar com a gente. Como é que tá a situação? Você tá bem?
That got a little heated. You all right?
Well, that depends. How angry is Cassandra? I wasn't trying to keep secrets. I told the Inquisition everything that seemed important at the time.
I know, Varric. You never would have kept quiet otherwise.
I keep hoping none of this is real. Maybe it's all some bullshit from the Fade and it'll just disappear. I know I need to do better. I'm sorry.
Só isso mesmo? Não vai falar nada com a gente não? Tem que gastar seus diálogos.
Corypheus is back. Oh, shit.
You said he was a Darkspawn or a Magister. What is he really?
I'm not sure. I don't think Corypheus really knows either. He's definitely a Darkspawn, but when we found him, it was pretty obvious he hadn't heard that. He thinks he's a Magister, a priest of Dumat, in fact. He says he broke into the Golden City, like in the Chantry tale.
If you and Hawk defeated him once, we can do it again.
We didn't just think Corypheus was dead. He was dead. No pulse, no breath, full of stab wounds. There wasn't a lot of room for doubt. It makes me wonder. I thought the Wardens imprisoned Corypheus to use him. Maybe they did it because he can't be killed.
How did you and Hawk even wind up in a Grey Warden prison for ancient Darkspawn?
Corypheus sent people after Hawk. He actually got control of an entire Carta clan. Made them drink Darkspawn blood. Weird shit.
Credo.
We tracked the Carta to an old dwarven fort or something in the mountains. Of course, it turned out to be a trap. They needed Hawk's blood to open the locks holding Corypheus, and they drew us into the prison to get it.
There has to be a way to defeat Corypheus. We'll find it, don't worry.
I hope you're right. Maker's breath, what have I let loose?
You had nothing to do with this, Varric.
I was the one who led Hawk to Corypheus. If I hadn't tracked the Carta to that ruin. But you've got more important things to do than listen to me worry. Just let me know when you want something shot.
Tecnicamente eu quero muito atirar em um monte de coisa, mas por enquanto a gente tem que gastar tudo os diálogos de todo mundo.
I want to know more about Red Lyrium.
I'll tell you what I can.
What could the Templars want with it?
In Kirkwall, just having the Lyrium idol made Knight Commander Meredith impossibly strong. Before it turned her into a Lyrium statue, anyway. Maybe they thought the power was worth it, or maybe they didn't know the consequences.
I think that's enough on Red Lyrium.
Yeah, not really my favorite subject. Need something?
Tem mais alguma coisa? Sobre
What can you
Corypheus.
tell me about this Corypheus?
I'm not exactly an expert, but ask away and I'll answer what I can.
How did you first encounter him?
A few years back, I was dealing with some trouble from a Carta clan that went rogue. They were sending assassins after the Hawk family. We tracked them to a rune in the Vimarks. It turned out to be a trap. Once you went far enough into the rune, there was a magic barrier that kept you from going back. The whole thing was a prison the Grey Wardens were using to hold what they thought was a powerful Darkspawn.
I've never heard of Wardens locking up Darkspawn. Why wouldn't they just kill him and be done with it?
I don't think they could. From what we saw in there, Corypheus can control Wardens somehow. They couldn't attack him. The Wardens locked him up because there was nothing else they could do.
He looks like some sort of blighted creature, but he speaks. What is he exactly?
The Wardens who imprisoned him thought he was just a Darkspawn. But you heard him ranting. He claims he's a Magister. One who assaulted the Golden City, what, more than 1,000 years ago? It seems crazy, but if he's telling the truth, he's one of the people who caused the blights.
You and Hawk both said before he was supposed to be dead.
He was dead. We killed him. The only way for us to escape the prison Corypheus was trapped in was to go through him. We weren't going to just leave the door to his prison open behind us and hope he was dead. We made sure.
All right, I think that's enough about Corypheus.
No problem. Need something?
Tem mais coisas sobre o lírio
I want to know
vermelho.
more about Red Lyrium.
I'll tell you what I can.
Como ele petrifica as
I've seen it
pessoas.
infect people like a disease and turn them to lyrium. How can it do that?
That's a good question. To tell the truth, we don't really know what that shit can do to a person. And I don't want to find out.
I think that's enough on Red Lyrium.
Yeah, not really my favorite subject.
E tem mais alguma coisa? Pergunta pessoal.
Can I ask you something, Varric?
You want to talk about me? I'm flattered. Also inclined toward extravagant lies.
How do you and Cassandra know each other?
You heard about the Kirkwall Chantry being destroyed? The guy responsible used to be a friend of mine. The Seeker had questions about that, and I had answers.
Are you from Ferelden? Or Ley?
Free Marches, born and raised in Kirkwall. And despite whatever you've heard, no, Kirkwall's not that bad.
I'm not clear on your line of work. You're a merchant.
I'm a businessman. My family has a seat in the Dwarven Merchants Guild. Merchants buy and sell goods. Businessmen buy and sell stores. In my spare time, I manage a spy network, and occasionally, I write books.
If you've run a spy network, why is Leliana our spy master?
To be honest with you, she's just a better spy master. The truly great ones can keep their distance. They don't get attached to their people. Me, I always wind up babysitting my informants and worrying about their families. We're in better hands with her.
Entendo.
You're an author. What kind of books have you written?
I've tried my hands at a few genres. My crime serials are my most popular. Hard in Hightown, guards breaking the rules to get things done. The Tale of the Champion is the most famous thing I've written, or infamous maybe. I started a romance serial once, Swords and Shields, but to be honest, I don't have a knack for romances. Most of my stories end in tragedy. Probably that says something unfortunate about me personally.
What sort of shops do you own?
Actually, we don't own shops. That was just an example. Mostly we invest in money lenders. Auction houses, a few mercenary companies, a couple of smithies. I think we own half a bee plantation in Ravane somewhere. Most of that's my brother's doing. Bartrand had business sense. Not much tact, but loads of business sense.
Thanks, Varric.
No problem.
Tem mais nada não?
Need something?
Claro que tem.
Can I ask you something, Varric?
You want to talk about me? I'm flattered. Also inclined toward extravagant lies.
Where did you get that crossbow? I've never seen one like it.
Bianca? She's one of a kind. I won her from Paragon Smith Bronca in a game of Wicked Grace. She was such a sore loser. Ran off to the deep roads in a huff, and that was the last anyone saw of her.
Who's she named for?
I can't tell you.
Por que não? Eu quero saber.
And the reason for that is?
Complicated. It's the one story I'll never tell. We just have to leave it at that.
Tá bom.
Thanks, Varric.
No problem.
Bem, com isso, eu acredito que eu já tenha terminado todos os diálogos necessários de todo mundo por hora. Eu, inclusive, acho que os seus também. O que é muito bom, porque eu preciso dar uma olhada agora em todas as missões que abriram. Entendeu? Eu tinha deixado negligenciado conversar com todo mundo, mas já consegui já passar em tudo. E isso foi muito bom. Mas agora a gente precisa coisar o conselho pra gente ter uma noção já do que a gente tem pra fazer. Nossa, a quantidade de pontinho. Depois de muita falação e muita conversa, agora chegou o momento da gente tentar limpar esse bando de pontinho que deu missão pra caramba pra fazer. Um monte de missão cronometrada, um monte de áreas novas, um monte de missões novas. E é o que a gente vai começar no próximo episódio. Eu espero vocês lá. Então, se gostaram, deixa aquele joinha que é só clicar. Coloca um comentário falando que você achou, compartilha com os amigos que é muito importante. Se não for inscrito no canal, já aproveita, se inscreve e ativa o sininho para receber notificação dos próximos vídeos. Muito obrigado e até o próximo.